The mansion on Larkspur Hill groaned in the tide-soaked night, its hallways flooded with green glowing brackish water. 3 aquamarine blue sardines slid through vent grates like quick flashes. Mary shone with a sea glass sheen. Kirby carried a nicked crescent dorsal, and Ty's tail tip showed a crimp from an old net. Feathers drifted from the portrait gallery, softening each echo and clinging to frames like quiet snow. They had come because strange currents were spilling into the town canals. Mary said they were the only ones who could swim the ghosted pipes to the source. They were estranged siblings drawn back by duty and the pull of shared history. Mary said they had to investigate because the mansion sat on the town's traffic nexus and only small, fast swimmers could reach the heart through curse-locked plumbing. Kirby said they were only fish, but he followed because he remembered when Mary had pulled him from a trawl line. Ty trailed them, anxious and eager to finally fix something himself. Mary said, "We'll make it right if we stay quick and focused." Their disagreement surfaced before the first stairwell bend, even though there were no stairs for fish. Mary muttered that the drooping ivy in the ballroom listened when insulted, and Kirby snorted that plants could not be insulted because plants had thick skins and waxy leaves. Ty asked if the ferns took feedback, and Mary said only if phrased sharply. Kirby flicked his fin in irritation. The mansion moaned, unimpressed with all of them. In the conservatory's control chamber, 2 teal-blue stingrays cruised in lazy circles, their wings slicing water like paper fans. Marge wore campaign stickers across her mantle as if barnacles carried slogans, and Travis's diamond pattern gleamed sharp as glass. They argued in low hisses yet held power as acting directors of the Ghost Infrastructure Board and secret campaign operatives. Marge said, "Volume wins elections." Travis said, "Silence keeps them one." Marge boasted while Travis worked the levers, and their motive sat plain in the haunted light. They planned to rig the mayoral election to secure contract monopolies and silence an upstart who promised audits. Marge said lifetime consulting fees and a wing named for them were waiting. Travis muttered they would also avoid prison if people could never reach the polls. The plan's ugliness spread like an oil sheen through the room. Behind ghost-riveted pipes lay the road rewriter, a machine older than its shadow. Travis explained to Marge that spectral surveyors would redraw asphalt overnight so every road ended in a roundabout. Marge said the circles would confuse voters and funnel traffic past a controlled billboard that showed only their candidate. They tested here because the mansion sat on the first survey marker where maps acted like law. Marge said, "Once they're circling, they'll never reach the ballot box." By mid-morning, town consequences boiled over. Delivery trucks idled in endless circles. The school bus drove heroic donuts past the same hedge, and a jogger waved at the same mailbox again and again. Inside, whirlpools in the flooded halls twisted like traffic diagrams and pulled the sardines sideways. Mary called out, and the stingrays turned, smiling without kindness, as if they had expected this audience. The first clash erupted, where the solarium's water thinned into tile and chalk lines beneath a dry pocket in the attic. Pearl-colored sparrows practiced competitive hopscotch. Bozo trilled commentary. Countess Lopula critiqued angles. Chadrick preened. Francis managed the chalk, and Leslie clicked scores. Ty froze, whispering that their grid looked like a spell. Countess Lopula said it was both sport and sacred geometry. Outside, a neighbor in a pirate hat shouted about betrayal, and the rumor rattled the hedges. Marge seized momentum, snapping orders as Travis spun valves that sent tremors through every street. A sullen chorus rose as drivers realized there were no straight paths left. Mary darted forward to protest, but Marge said trespassing sardines had no jurisdiction in civic engineering. Kirby shot back that they had more jurisdiction than cowards who needed circles to hide their fear. The second confrontation sharpened. They tried a sabotage that would have looked clever on paper. Mary told Ty to insult the ivy until it slumped over the master lever. Ty called the plant feckless and droopy, then apologized mid-sentence. Kirby argued insults only embarrassed fish. The ivy perked up under attention. The lever stayed free, and Travis laughed in a thin way that made their fins go cold. Rising currents swept them into a pantry cage, and the door locked with a haunted click. Marge glided past, with a stack of stickers reading "Vote a steady hand," and said they'd make great mascots for the roundabout ribbon cutting once they learned to swim in circles. Travis pointed to a blueprint weighted by a loaf of ghost bread, and Mary saw their neighborhood drawn as loops with the polling place at the bullseye. Outside, a toddler had traded a clue to a baker for a sticky bun. His team booed while still eating. Kirby said, "We are not going to be anyone's mascot." Ty kept glancing toward the attic hatch where Bozo shouted about semifinals and chalk control. Countess Lopula fluttered down to the grate and offered a sudspot if Ty brought the lucky chalk bag stolen during the scavenger hunt betrayal. Ty promised too quickly, split between duty and obsession, and Mary frowned. The failure thickened into hopelessness. Ty said, "I just wanted to help someone win for once." In the guttering lantern light, the siblings argued plainly. Mary said plants clearly responded to sharp words because the foyer fern had wilted when Marge mocked it. Kirby said correlation was not causation and ghosts were likely the culprits. Ty blurted that none of it mattered if he had already let down the sparrows and the town by getting distracted. The floorboards creaked like a disappointed elder, and all three felt small. At dusk, the Sparrow semifinal began under the eaves, and Ty arrived with empty fins and a guilty face. He confessed the lucky chalk bag had been triple betrayed, and was now pinned to the librarian's sweater like a merit badge. Countess Lopula said obsession without community was only spinning in place, then asked if there was another way to draw perfect lines. Mary brightened with an idea and asked Kirby to help draft the water. Ty said, "I can still help, if you'll let me." They redirected a slow leak from the greenhouse gutters and blew a fine current over the tiles, laying down shimmering lines where chalk should be. The sparrows tested the flow with precise hops, and the grid held steady, numbers glowing in waterlight. Ty learned fast and led a combo with Bozo so clean Francis dropped the score stone in delight. At match point, the sardines spun a figure eight as a metronome, and the sparrows won. Countess Lopula promised their team would join the fight for kindness and craft. Quick pause for the crew's request. If you enjoyed this haunted hopscotch heist, please like and subscribe so more people find it. Drop a comment with the word slop to let the sparrows know you're on their team. Your support keeps these tiny swimmers moving forward. They hopped across a brass ceiling grill and three louvers flipped open like waking eyes. Leslie explained that hopscotch trained them to hit numbered sequences in rhythm, exactly what the mansion's old pressure plates required. Francis said they had heard Marge panic when a caterer whispered pickle at a tasting and she had flapped into a stack of canapes. Mary reasoned that if they whispered pickle through the right vent, while the sparrows pinned key plates, Marge and Travis would fumble the rewriter. Countess Lopula said, "We will strike on the count." Bozo produced a crumpled scavenger hunt cheat sheet someone had thrust at him under the lilac bush. On the back, a doodled ventilation diagram was numbered like a hopscotch board and labeled whispering vents, dining to conservatory. Ty said even unfair games could produce helpful maps when the community cleaned up. Kirby admitted it was the first useful thing from that ridiculous hunt. Mary said, "It's enough." They assembled with speed. Mary and Kirby swam through basement ducts toward a voice port above the control room, while Ty coordinated with Countess Lopula's squad along the numbered plates. Bozo cracked jokes to steady everyone, and even Kirby snorted. The sparrows launched in rhythm, the sequence clacking like a drumline. Ty said, "On my count, steady and true." In the portrait gallery, Featherdrift hung in still air as a human Italian pizza chef stepped into a doorway. He tossed dough in a perfect arc, stretching the circle until it shone translucent against candlelight. The dough flipped and settled onto his peel with practiced grace, and he turned to set it down. The moment passed as lightly as the feathers falling, a quiet circle among many. Back in the control room, Marge and Travis glanced up as brass louvers shifted but stayed confident. Mary spoke from the vent that trespassing citizens had a final appeal, and Marge posted about precincts locked in circles. Travis reached for a lever to tighten the pantry whirlpool, but the sparrows hit plates 1, 2, 3 and the machine hesitated. Ty counted them in, saying their town wanted straight paths and honest words. Marge said, "Confidence is control." Mary breathed and whispered pickle into the port, the words sliding down like silk. It emerged above Marge's head, soft and undeniable. Marge spasmed and knocked a stand of calibrators into the water. Travis shouted about control, then froze as Bozo's team hammered plates 468 to lock out override. The turning point arrived and the lanterns brightened. Travis slapped a panic paddle, but Leslie timed a hop that pinned it for 3 counts. Frances and Chadwick fluttered in a double step to flip a safety latch. Mary whispered pickle again, steady as a tide, and Marge pit-wheeled into the vertex wheel. Kirby and Ty surged from a side vent together and yanked the power siphon cork free. The road rewriter coughed and stuttered. The machine went still as ghost feathers swirled in and smothered the last cursed sparks. Marge and Travis lunged and tangled themselves in a net of silk pillowcases that cinched as if the house had judged them. Mary skipped any speech and signaled the sparrows, who hopped the sequence that sealed the board and summoned auditors through a law carved in brass. The villains were caught as slogans peeled off their mantles one by one. Kirby said, "That's enough circles for a lifetime." Around town, roads groaned and unwound like ribbons freed from a cruel braid. The school bus drove straight to school and the children cheered, and a jogger finally reached a new mailbox and fist-pumped at its unfamiliar number. Scavenger hunt officials, who had moved their prize table 5 times, announced the hunt's end and amnesty for minor betrayals. Their ledger of who swapped which clue for what snack recorded tampered signage and slid neatly into the auditor's file. Ty said, "Straight lines feel like fresh air." Inside the mansion, current steadied and flowed like proper hulls instead of vicious circles. Ghosts from the pillow battle drifted lower to mop ectoplasm with brave down, patting burns and dabbing leaks until brass gleamed. The sparrows hopped a reverse sequence that closed the louvers, and a soft wind carried panic out through cracked windows. The house hummed in relief like an old ship righted in calm water. Mary said, "Let it rest." Marge and Travis faced public consequences. Auditors wrote them up for election tampering, infrastructure sabotage, and misuse of a historic mansion, and the council stripped them of titles and contracts. Their candidate announced them and withdrew, and the challenger promised transparent roads and roundabout referenda limited by common sense. The stingrays sat in a dry, clear tank awaiting trial. Kirby said, "No one needs a whisper for justice." After sirens faded, the siblings drifted in the conservatory where ferns tickled the water like hesitant fingers. Mary said she still believed plants could be insulted because language carried shape, and Kirby said he would run a fair test. He insulted the fern once, calling it pompous parsley, and the fern kept being a fern. Mary thanked it for patience, and front uncurled like preening. They laughed until the embarrassment eased. Ty said maybe plants did not care about insults but did respond to tone, and that felt like a truce. The town changed in small ways that added up. A community oversight group formed for roads, including sparrows, sardines, and 3 stubborn raccoons, promising no more hidden manipulations. Countess Lopula led Saturday hopscotch for all where kids learned rhythm and responsibility, and Bozo's commentary made even shy players grin. Mary, Kirby, and Ty kept watch on the mansion's vents. Mary said, "We stay until stillness means safety." The scavenger hunt closed with a picnic under lilacs, where betrayed teammates swapped back clues and mumbled sorries. Ty returned the purloined cheat sheet with a note that it had helped stop a bigger mess, and the organizer, who was the librarian wearing the lucky chalk bag, wheezed to laugh. The final clue was a thank you banner tucked under a table, which unrolled into a simple map of the mansion's maintenance corridors with vents labeled for audits. Everyone applauded because the community had decided to play fair from here on. Ty said, "That's the best prize." They swam home through water that no longer yanked sideways, under a ceiling that shed only gentle feathers. Kirby said that if Mary insisted on speaking kindly to plants, he would not object, and Mary said she would stop trying to weaponize ivy. Ty, still wearing a chalk smudge like a medal, promised to keep games in their place and invite the sparrows to patrol drills. The mansion's windows glowed in the setting sun, and the portraits seemed to smile, remembering a battle fought with pillows instead of fists. Mary said, "Straight enough for now. All the slop in this video was generated using AI. This disclaimer is provided for clarity and accountability. Please like, subscribe, and comment the word slop to support more stories like this."